My name is Moshtagh Mohammadi and I am a refugee. You cannot go and really tell everyone that you're a Baha'i because you will get thrown out of school or get thrown in jail. So as a child growing up, that really brought us together just because we knew the struggles that we're facing and how much myself and my little brother needed to help my dad out. In 2002, I went to Turkey, and for a year and a half, we lived there under the UN's protection until a country would accept us. And at the end of 17 months, it ended up being Canada. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Moshtagh Mohammadi. I wanted to go into civil because it put the math side of me and the creative side of me together into one career. I received the Marshall J. Heineke Award, and it made me really feel special. It gave me a big source of encouragement to keep going. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. When I come to school every day, I try to remind myself that there's thousands of students like you in Iran that cannot do what you're doing. My dad brought me out of that country for this reason.
What would you like to say to your dad right now?
I don't say this to him enough. I'd love to say two things to him. Thank you, and I love you.
Thank you very much for joining me and watching that story about Moshtagh. So what I wanted to start off by talking about is, it's not a very happy bullet point, but you can't celebrate everybody's story. And when we, as an advancement team and an alumni relations team, decided that we wanted to tell the story of one of our students, we had to ask ourselves, what are the objectives of this video? And like all teams in post-secondary, we wanted a video that was going to demonstrate the importance of bursaries and awards. And we also wanted to use this as a way to engage our donors to show them how donations assist our students. I think it's quite common that we're told that everybody does have a story, which isn't untrue. We all have a path in life that has elements of a story that, may serve different, to be quite frank, marketing purposes. But when we are looking to specifically celebrate and try and engage a certain audience, trying to fit a leader into a storyboard is going to end up a very complicated process. So prior to us formally choosing Moshtagh, we connected with approximately 3 other students whose stories were just simply not what we were looking for. They were wonderful people, and we met with these 3 other students, and it really allowed us to add them to our evergreen list and feature them in other appropriate ways. But one of the best things that I can kind of put forward as a piece of advice, and especially when you are looking for that subject, that student, that alum to join you on this path of creating a video about their story, is really, ensuring that you're asking your folks, the people you are looking for connections, exactly what you're looking for. So we were looking to tell a story of a student who comes from a different background. We wanted someone who was an award recipient. We wanted someone who was a student leader. And with these specific requests, it seemed to help the people who we were engaging with to think strategically about the names we were putting forward. To give a little bit of a background on BCIT, just in terms of matching organizations and kind of understanding the path forward. how BCIT is structured is we have embedded business development reps in each of our schools. So it allows us to go and connect with them as they're a little bit closer to the student body than our alumni relations team or our advancement team. And they're able to say, I think I do have this student who would be a great person that you guys can connect with. So that really helped us in terms of seeking out that right person to make sure we were telling the right story. A really big piece of Moshtag's story was that he had elements that our audience both did connect with, but also not. Empathy is really the key to storytelling, as well as the interview process. So we want to put our audience in a position where whether or not they're familiar with a person's story, they understand and empathize with the same feelings. So for Moshtagh, as you guys were able to see, he had a very strong connection with his father. That was something that we really wanted to celebrate, because as much as our differences and our similarities as people are brought to the top, it's important to look for those things like love, relationship, and perseverance, and find that common ground that your audience is ultimately going to know and understand and be able to connect with. So Moshtagh, he happened to have this incredible relationship with his dad. Not only did his dad flee Iran with his two sons, but he sacrificed so much more of his life to give his kids this opportunity. And the story of parental sacrifice is powerful to almost everybody. Whether or not we have parents engaged in our personal lives, we often have a mentor or a person that we can look up to. And this is the connection that we really wanted to draw our audience into. As a part of our plan, it just happened to be, in terms of when we found Moshtagh as the person who we were going to interview and feature, that we launched this story with a social media campaign on Father's Day. Father's Day is a great opportunity to do these sorts of marketing opportunities, because you're not tied to any specific group of people or background, whether our fathers are still with us or not, whether they've been good to us or bad. The entire audience really understands that the support of a parental figure can be entirely motivating to our journey as people through life. And I think especially with Moshtagh, his story had every piece of that element that people wanted to connect with. So we talk about authenticity, and I wanted to, when Tara and I were originally speaking about presenting on this video, I think authenticity is one of these conversation topics that exist in almost every industry. We talk about food, and people wonder if you're going for authentic blank food. On the most simple level, I think authenticity, it means to not be fake. And with a very quick Google search, there are many sites that have put together those listicles as to how to be an authentic person. And when we first connected with Moshtagh, I think there is an element about connecting with somebody from a different background where you want to go and you want to be an authentic person, but you also want them to give you their authentic selves. I think this rings true specifically in alumni engagement, because we are the relationship people. So when we're approaching people who may be a part of a photo shoot or a story or a video, we want to have those opportunities to get to know them and understand what makes their lives richer. We want to truly listen to their stories and understand that we're all unique and celebrating that. So I think a really big piece to getting to know Moshtagh was specifically that vulnerability in authenticity. And truthfully, I had not knowingly met somebody from the Baha'i faith before meeting Moshtagh. I had a really strong desire to go and read the entire Wikipedia page and understand the entire background of the faith. But what I think really drew our relationship to a stronger position, which put us in a position where we were able to really talk to him in that authentic manner or talk in that authentic way that we talk about, is going and really listening to his story, understanding that everything that I was able to share in terms of what he told me about his life was also making my life richer. And I think recognizing we're, again, in an industry of learning and education, it's important we reverse those roles with our interviewees to allow them to fully teach us about their experience. I think there can be a little bit of fear around showing up and not being really well read about a person's background, but it's a matter of finding that balance between intrigue and ignorance. Being curious about a person's background and genuinely interested in their experience, I think, creates an environment of celebration, which is ultimately what we're looking for. So your interviewee will feel valued and hopefully comfortable to share some of their experience. And in Moshtag's case, I had no specific experience in. Back to his status of being a refugee, I was not ever persecuted for my beliefs, and I never have had to flee my home for what I believe in. But coming to him and being vulnerable in that position, it ultimately allowed us to create that authentic relationship. I think with narrative work specifically, much of the messaging is out of your control, or out of my control, out of our control. And that's okay when you can guide the conversation to be honest about what you're trying to achieve. So there were times in our filming where we would say things like, can we spend a little bit more time talking about that? Specifically about him leaving Iran, specifically about his faith. And sometimes the answer was no, but mostly it was yes. And it really allowed us to capture Moshtagh's story. And I think one of the real perks of being in post-secondary is, we weren't looking to sensationalize or capitalize on Moshtagh, but really understand him as a person and what drove him to be this student leader, this person who had so much humility in everything that he did, and also cared so much about his family, which is a story that we, are all very, very happy to hear. I wanted to share this quote that Moshtagh shared with us for those of you who I'm sure happy to read on your own. I wanted first to be a doctor, but I realized I'm afraid of blood. Then I wanted to be an actor, and I realized there are no jobs really, laughs Moshtagh about his career aspirations as a high schooler. It's really the exception, not the rule, that most people know exactly where they are headed in life. And I think for Moshtagh, he didn't know he wanted to be an engineer. So rolling back up to our original intention of this video, yes, it was absolutely important that we highlighted his education. BCIT has a variety of competitions and student-led presentations that the alumni office, as well as our stakeholder groups, try and attend. So that B-roll that you saw where people were clapping and Moshtagh was in a suit, that was actually all collected prior to us knowing Moshtagh would be our interviewee, which I will admit was very lucky. So a tip from our office would be, by attending these student presentations, we were able to get tipped off as to who would be a good speaker. In Moshtag's case, he was also a bursary recipient, which married really well to the overall story. But either way, we didn't want to change Moshe's story, so we chose to highlight certain aspects that would reel in the audience. So when he did that presentation, we were already like, wow, this guy is an incredible public speaker. But then as we got to know him and, understood his struggles in terms of just trying to find his path in life, it really helped us in terms of shaping that story and allowing him to highlight the pieces of his story that are important to him. So one of the things that we talk a lot about is, you can't find a compelling story from behind your desk. And I think this is, these are not groundbreaking tips, but I do also feel like it's recognizing that cliches are also cliche for a reason. We are the relationship people, and when we are out meeting faculty, instructors, and the student association, or our business development folks, we ask, who are your star students right now? You know, one of our really big, I don't want to say plans, but something that we try and look to do as a team is take those students for coffee, really getting out and meeting them. One, what student doesn't like to go for a free coffee? But it gives you an opportunity to make note of how the student presents themselves, how articulate they are, if they make good eye contact. And these coffee meetings are twofold in the alumni world, because it really allows you to make that or create that opportunity for meaningful engagement. And even if it doesn't result in moving forward with a video or a story, you know, it ensures those students know that they're heard and that we care about them, and that there's a potential to feature them in other ways. These non-interview questions, you know, they aren't reserved for young alumni like Moshtagh. They help lay the foundation for the entire interview. I really believe they're an opportunity to introduce these to your C-suite alumni as well, but because no one wants to jump into a question like, tell us about your childhood, by learning that your interviewee may have the same food likes or movie interests or music background. It creates that sense of ease. And I know that the people who are on this webinar, you know, we are all in the business of creating those relationships, but I really do feel that that is the best way forward in making people feel comfortable, especially in sharing the stories of their background where persecution and sacrifice has been made, and you know, they're sitting across the table from somebody like myself, a cis white female who has not had those same experiences. We're able to come together and sit together, and through our values, you know, really guide our behavior and interactions, and creating that stronger bond and championing those diverse experiences. So there's always more, I know there's always more for us to do than we do have time. And I'm sure everyone joining us today feels that way. But creating these relationships, whether they do end in a video or it deepens ties with the students, I really do believe that it creates value for the institution as a whole. Moshtagh is one of our many success stories, but he's somebody that we are so happy to celebrate. You know, he was in his last year of engineering when we did this video, went on to secure his quote unquote dream job at his dream company, and is still climbing that ladder. You know, we're so happy to be celebrating him and really tell his story the way that he wanted to share it. He is truly an incredible person, and I think that from us telling his story, it has also opened the doors to telling others. People have seen what our department is able to produce, and you know, really taking away some of the fear of producing a story that may have some fundraising element to it. So across the institute, you know, I think there are sometimes these notions that we are going to have a hard ask at the end of the video or something to that effect, but we really did make it about Moshtagh, his father, and his story, and how he was assisted throughout his journey as a student. And by doing it well, I think we create that ability for people to recognize, hey, you know, let's give this student name forward because they deserve to have their story told as well. So that brings me to the end of the hard part of the presentation. And I have a photo here just to share. Moshtagh actually went on to get an Outstanding Student Leader Award later that year, which we were very happy to celebrate. And it, you know, it was not planned, so it was all serendipitous, and that is him with his father there, who I was so pleased to meet. But really, I would like to turn it over to the folks who have attended this conference today and really answer any questions that may have popped up throughout the presentation, and also mention that I will be at the national conference in Winnipeg. So happy to also meet up there if that's an opportunity. So I suppose over to you, Kara.
Yeah, wonderful, Ali, and thanks for the national conference plug as well. Absolutely, everyone. We look forward to joining you all in Winnipeg in May 19th and to the 21st. At this very moment in time, we don't have any questions in the box, and I'm certainly that's not reflected of this presentation. It's a very heartwarming story and an amazing. Authentic thing you guys have done here. But certainly if anyone has questions, I'll leave it open for a few more minutes and use that chat box or the Q&A box that should be at the bottom of your screen. If you click those, you can just enter in and type. And of course, otherwise, Ali is certainly open to answering anything sort of offline. She's supplied her email and phone number there. So feel free to connect with her at your own leisure. And I just, again, Ali, I want to thank you so much. That was a very heartwarming story and an amazing presentation, and just so great sort of hear more than that in depth through your detail. Before, we'll see if anyone adds any messages. Although I do see here that we have someone saying that they enjoyed the presentation very much, but there's no questions. Did you have any other closing thoughts, Ali, on this project?
Closing thoughts, I suppose, and I mean, this is not a groundbreaking tip, and you know, I appreciate everybody coming from their very busy worlds and post-secondary, and I mean, we're all moving so fast, and there are 1,000,001 demands at all times. But you know, I've recently, as I set my goals for the year, tried to mark out a certain amount of students that I am personally going to meet with, even if it is those 30-minute coffee meetings. And you know, normally that's reserved for the alumni more so in terms of what my portfolio looks like, but it has been incredibly rewarding, and it's a, you know, a good reminder we're always here for the students who are future alum. And I think we've got a friend in life for Moshtagh. I think it's worth mentioning that him receiving the one bursary or award, pardon me, you know, he said to me that he wants to start his own award one day. And it's things like that where it's like, wow, I really feel like all I did was create a friendship with this young man. And, you know, he came to that conclusion on his own. And that's a really beautiful way to tie things up in a bow. So just that we're very proud of him.
Yeah, no, wow, that is a great, you know, follow up to this story, and I hope he does pursue that. That's a fantastic, you know, way to keep being engaged. Phenomenal. All right, so I don't see any other questions, so I'll say thank you once again, Ali, and to all of you who attended today. As a reminder, these webinars are free to all CCAE members, and we encourage you to visit the CCAE learning section of the website and check out future presentations, and you can register for them as well. Right now, I believe we just have a February listing, but there are 3 other webinar series that will be shortly posted once we confirm dates with the presenters. There'll be, I believe, 2 in April, I've been told, and 1 in May before the conference. So thanks again, everyone. I hope you have all a wonderful rest of the week, and bye for now.
Thank you.